The Audio Vault on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star is brought to you by AA Best Bail Bonds, 225-2121, or online at mybestbailbonds.com. Super Bowl 58 in Vegas is set. It's the Chiefs and Niners. Hear it right here on your exclusive home for the Super Bowl. 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
It is the Blitz here on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. He is Joe Reinagle. I'm Jason Minix. Our AA Best Bail Bonds Radio Row coverage in Las Vegas continues. Brought to you by Southern Recipe, Small Batch Pork Rinds, and Synergenics. And, Joe, I've been waiting to talk to Shawne Merriman since, I don't know, the Cowboys pooped the bed against the Green Bay Packers because they didn't have a linebacker. So I wanted to get a linebacker's perspective on what the hell was Dan Quinn thinking. Shawne Merriman joining us here on Radio Row. Man, how's your Tuesday?
It's good, man. Not as good as you guys. I didn't have to be here as early. So I'm just hitting that coffee run right now, so I'm in good shape.
Well, you are in good shape. Looks like you could still play. If Mike McCarthy calls you think head down to Dallas, you can fill that linebacker?
No, not if they're going to keep me on the line of scrimmage like Mike.
All right, Dan Quinn's now the head coach of Washington.
Yeah.
He did great in Dallas. And as a Cowboy fan, I'm mixed because the last couple of games and then that playoff game, that defense wasn't historically great like they had a chance to be coming into this season. One of the knocks is the undersized linebackers. And when Leighton Vander Esch got hurt, they were gone. People that maybe not quite as informed. Well, they tried to make Marquise Bell a safety, a linebacker. They did that in training camp. It's not like, hey, somebody's hurt. Can you do this? That was the plan all along. You're a linebacker, and you're certainly not undersized. What were they think when you see that? Does it piss you off as a linebacker?
I think this. There's not a problem having undersized linebackers if you don't beef up that interior D-line. That's the only way to hide them.
Yeah.
If you got the undersized. And Vander Esch going down, he was a thumper. A guy that can go lay the wood to any ball carrier, go up and fill the gaps. He's a big presence inside. They've always had guys who can go and do it. I mean, Lee wasn't that big of a – he wasn't huge. He was just a smart player, and he was always around the football. But what they had interior D linemen to keep him away from people being in his face. That's the goal. The fact is they didn't address that. That to me was the biggest issue. Having Micah Parsons on one side of the line of scrimmage, you keep him there where people know where he's lining up at. I didn't approve of that. When you got a guy as dynamic as he is, he can do it so much. You put him in the middle of the field, you let him blitz down the A or B gap, but down the center, and then you bring him off the edge. You never let an offense know where he's coming because he's too dynamic of a player. If somebody can line up and say, hey, by the way, Michael Parsons is going to be here, you got to make those adjustments, and I think that's where they failed.
Shawne, I've got to ask you, because in that last game, when specifically, obviously we're Cowboys country and very disappointed about the Packers playoff game, it looked like the defense, and I'm not asking you to put blame on anybody, but it looked like they were just simply out-coached big time. I mean, they weren't in the right spots. The Packer receivers were everywhere. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen a team or been involved in a game like that where the defense just looks lost?
Yeah, it seemed like the Cowboys defense was on their heels the whole entire game. They couldn't get a jump start. They couldn't, they were getting hard count, a quick count. Wasn't in the right position. Guys wasn't lined up yet when the ball was hiked. I mean, it was a lot of chaos that was going on. It seemed like a chess match that the Green Bay Packers won. Because everything they did, they dialed up against whatever the Cowboys had planned on that defensive play, and they couldn't catch up. It was almost like those first 15 plays, it was scripted for Green Bay, and those first 15 plays, it was scripted for Dallas, got thrown right out the window quick, right? And they just were on their heels the entire game.
When you go coverage like what Dan Quinn was doing, and guys are still wide open, and you're not getting pressure on the quarterback, to have it all completely fail like that on one particular Sunday, do you just chalk that up to a bad game or at the worst possible time, or is that really something internal that the Cowboys have to figure out and address?
They gotta address that, and I'll tell you this, because they got a talent-wise defense. They're loaded. I mean, Lawrence, if you look across the board outside of even Micah, the cornerback position, I know that Diggs went down, but the other guy stepped right up and play extremely well. They're loaded with talent. So when you got talent, now you just got to put those guys in position to win. And what happened against Green Bay, it just seemed like a lot of those guys was not in position to win. And by the way, if you can't line up and just and man up across the board and your guys up front can't be the one-on-one block, or you need to do whatever, just start throwing exotic blitzes. Start throwing packages in there because they're not getting to the quarterback anyway. You're getting beat with no pressure, and then guys are lost in coverage. You got to win at something, right? They're going to scorch you regardless. So as a defensive coordinator, you go out and look at this game. You say, look, now we got to start bringing up strong safeties. We got to start doing stuff and just go hell-bent for election because we know that we're not getting no pressure and we're lost in coverage. We don't have extra guys in coverage anyway. So we got to win some battle somewhere, and they just didn't make those adjustments.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on this because obviously we're at the Super Bowl. You got a quarterback matchup that is, completely different. Patrick Mahomes, one of the best to play the game. The guy's incredible. Brock Purdy, still trying to get the respect, I think. I don't think he gets a lot of respect. When you look at a guy like Dak Prescott, who had a great regular season. I mean, the guy's fantastic. Numbers were off the chart. But it seems like when the bright lights go on, something happens. What's your thought there?
I think that a lot of people put Dak Prescott in the category of being elite. I never thought that he was elite. I always thought that he was above average. He was a good quarterback. When you give him tools, a CeeDee Lamb, you give him a tight end, you give him Pollard plus. I know they didn't have a 1-2 punch this year necessarily, but, Pollard, and then when they had Zeke back there, they had a 1-2 punch. You give him a great defense, Micah Parsons, Diggs, you give him tools, he's going to go out and win games. It's the games that matter. The teams that's above 500 in critical situations that Dak Prescott, in my opinion, will not get over. He doesn't have that factor to get them over the hump when it comes time. Now, the problem is that he's so good in the regular season, you can't really move on from him. Because you got to get somebody coming in the door that's going to be better than him than the regular season, and there isn't one. And in fact, if he gets a max contract or not, they may have to give it to him because there's nobody on the street right now, unless they decide to go draft, that's going to have a better regular season than Dak Prescott. So I feel bad for Jerry Jones. And and this is another thing about Jerry Jones. A lot of people want to give him, a lot of slack for being the GM and having all this. He put together a great team. Paper-wise, talent-wise, coaching staff with Dan Quinn, he actually assembled a great team, and I never saw Jerry Jones go out there and drop a pass or miss a tackle, right? And so I know he's always going to get a lot of flack for having too much control. But if you look at the standpoint of him being upstairs in the front office, the team that they assembled actually was a great team.
Shawne, as you say that, as we visit with Shawne Merriman here on at Radio Row, you're right. I don't disagree. Dak is a great regular season quarterback. I use the term playoff Prescott. That's not a good thing. 2-5. What did the Cowboys do? And you just said it. How do you replace them for the regular season? But if the goal is to win the Super Bowl, when do you make the decision it's time to say, regular season success is nice, but our goal isn't to win 12 games every year and go on vacation after the first playoff game? How do you, from an NFL organization standpoint, say he's great in the regular season, sucks in the playoffs, we've got to move on from him?
I personally will move on for Dak Prescott. I would. Because, and this is why, because of what the Cowboys and the history of what the franchise is, being America's team and championship or nothing, right? I mean, that's the mentality it is. And for Dallas Cowboys fans, that's the mentality of Jerry Jones and everybody in the organization. And Dak Prescott would be an upgrade for the Atlanta Falcons. He would be an upgrade for the Vegas Raiders. He'll be an upgrade for 6 or 7 other teams. Right now, he instantly makes them better by going to the organization. We've already seen what Dak Prescott can do with the Cowboys. So how many times you want to run that back before you say, hey, maybe he doesn't have it. Maybe he can't get us there. And so even if the regular season isn't as great as Dak Prescott, now this is me. The Cowboys fans will never agree to this.
Not necessarily.
You're wrong. I wish you'd come on the show every day. I got to argue with this guy about this every day.
It's depressing as hell hearing you say that, my friend. But at the same time, sometimes truth hurts.
It's one of these things that I think Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, a really good quarterback. He's just not elite. Mm-hmm. And so if you already seen what you get out of Dak Prescott, what else can happen? Okay, say you only win 9 games, right, this time around. 8 games, whatever. you're getting put out the playoffs anyway with Dak Prescott, so why not go and try to see what else is out there to see if you can move on? And if that's drafting somebody or bringing in somebody who you think they can do an equal amount of good job or maybe better, but it's a combination of having a big contract that's on the table right now, max contract, because that's what he's going to ask for. That's what the market dictates for a franchise quarterback right now. So now you're giving somebody that you know that doesn't have the capabilities of winning you a ring, a max contract, and now you're sitting back to see what happens again. And I think that as much as the Dallas Cowboys fans love their team, I think that is what would get them off of the wagon. Sitting back, knowing what you get out of Dak Prescott, giving him a max contract, and either don't make the playoffs or make the playoffs and get booted in the first round, and that will finally do it for the Dallas Cowboys fans, in my opinion.
Wow. That's good advice, and I hope he takes that, Sean. That's good. I got to ask you about Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it was the best move. Not only for the Chargers, I think for Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers having, the relationship he had, he played there. He knows the Spanos family, know the ownership. Very familiar with the team. He loved Justin Herbert to death. He's been vocal about that for a long time now. And then vice versa, he was looking to make that jump to the NFL anyway. So what better position can you be in making a jump from college football to the pro? You walk in with a franchise quarterback already. You're walking into a Derwin James, a Khalil Mack, a Keenan Allen. I mean, it doesn't. Coaching vacancies don't happen that way. Well, you got a rebuilding year, right? You got to try to figure out for a couple of years, right? They can go and win games right now. So if he was going to make that NFL jump at all, this was the best situation for both sides, the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh.
Shawne Merriman joining us here on the Blitz on Radio Row. Of course, a Chargers legend with the nickname Lights Out for obvious reasons. And we've talked to you a number of times over the last couple of years about your the fight game that you've got. And it looks like you could get in the ring and fight, but you guys have a big fight coming up on February 16th.
Yeah, huge fight. Probably our biggest and most explosive card we've had in the history of the company. Next Friday, February 16th, in Long Beach, California. We'll be live on Fubo TV, Fubo Sports. Got a couple big names up there, guys that had a potential going to the UFC. Alvin Morales, who fought in the UFC, is fighting on his card, trying to get back in the UFC. Tommy Aaron, who's Tony Ferguson's guy. We got A.J. Hoskins to play linebacker for Oregon. He's from Texas. Down there. He's going to be our first fight of the night, and we're working on transitioning more and more of these former athletes. We're starting to see the crossover, the transition. It's going to happen, and this fight is also special because we're introducing these lights out tech gloves that they can measure speed, power, punch, impact, G-force. So we're actually going to be able to pull some data from these fights to show the punches landed and how fast and how strong they came. Motion caption cameras up top, they can see the movements and how fast they're going. And then the broadcasters being able to talking about it during the live broadcast. So we're incorporating this first time. It's been attempted before in combat sports some years ago. No one's ever really executed on it, but we think we got it.
Fubo TV next Friday night. It's going to be a lot of fun. Shawne Merriman, Charger legend. Always great catching up to you, even though this was depressing as hell, man.
I thought it was great, Sean. You come on anytime.
Look, anytime you need to be depressed more, let me know. I'll come back.
I got your number, man. We'll do that. Appreciate you, Shawne Merriman, here on the Blitz on 94.1 at San Antonio Sports Star as we continue with our AA Best Bail Bonds Radio Row coverage brought to you by Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds and Synergenics.